Very good afternoon, everyone. Charles here, Frgnt Mastery, FrgntForex.com, and Frgnt Daily Chart Analysis. Well, what an interesting afternoon. NFP to begin with on a Wednesday. Excuse my alerts. NFP on a Wednesday is strange enough to kick Wednesday off. But nevertheless, it's a video really to go over more of setups and planning as opposed to actually just looking at the chart and understanding that NFP was the reason for a pretty nice 5% return. So nevertheless, the day started off, if I enlarge the screen for you all, the day started off with me taking a loss, actually, with a textbook entry for what I was looking for, an Asia range short position. Valid 15-minute point of interest caused a snap in the market. That order block was highlighted. Asia opened, tapped up into it, and essentially I was looking for a lower time shift, a lower time frame break of structure, if I get my words out correctly, before then looking for a short. Of course, price pushed us into a little bit of profit, nothing to scream about, couldn't even get break even by that time, and then price turned around and went to the other area that I was looking at shorting from in regards to the higher time frame and directional bias. So you can see on the 4-hour bottom left hand chart an almighty order block that, to be honest, I was forecasting price to come a little bit higher into that area, i.e. tap in more so into that previous wick, the previous weekly wick, which I've got as an imbalance. And as I always say in my community, anticipate that imbalances will look to be filled. That way you can be gauged towards a decent place to put your stop loss in terms of all time frames. Now, what I did say in the community is if my setup aligns as a result of actually tapping into that 15-minute order block and provides me with an entry criteria, so the setup aligns nice. Secondly, entry criteria. If an entry provides, or if an entry is shown to be provided, then I will still short. Now the question that I had is, well, where then do I put my stop loss based upon my original plan, which was at least price come higher up into this 15-minute order block, allowing me potentially to cover that previous weekly high, or what I was really forecasting is price breach that 15-minute order block in the entirety, push up into that previous weekly high, then give me a shift in price action, and I would have been much more comfortable to take a short from those highs down to then fill Asia or perhaps into that 4-hour 50 EMA. As I said, that did not happen, and if I get rid of this now, what we can see is price tapped into that 15-minute order block beautifully. It then gave me the bearish 15-minute bearish engulfing that allowed me then to have order block selection. Once that order block was highlighted and selected, I then set my sell limit as soon as this candle closed bearish. As a result of that, then I was then led to understand, well, in an ideal scenario, that's where I put my take profit. In a more realistic scenario, that's where I put my take profit. However, with that said, look at my range, considerably unacceptable at that stage for a 1 to 2 for myself. More often than not, I'm looking at a 1 to 2.5 minimum, if not a 1 to 3 minimum. Therefore, I was forced then to, in fact, trust my analysis, trust my stop loss, and essentially go for the extended fill, which would have been the Asia range, as a result of anticipating that although I am expecting rejection from this 4-hour 50 EMA, it's more than likely that price could well push down into filling Asia before then flipping bullish, closing above that 4-hour 50 EMA, and then giving us a candle like so, which is essentially what you're seeing now on the 15-minute time frame. So with that said, it's not really an example of take profits or an example of making money. What it is an example of, and if I go to the main part of the example, if we have a look at Frgnt daily chart analysis, GBP US dollar, this morning, 8 hours ago, I have already got my key areas on 8 hours prior to actually executing these positions. Well, not so much 8 hours prior to executing, but you see what I mean. Long before price is ready to come into these areas, I've already analyzed the charts, planned my type of entry, showcased it to TradingView, shown my community, as well as Frgnt Marshall that got a detailed breakdown on how I'm going to be taking these positions. As I always say, these are valid points of interest, but you need to know how exactly to take your position from those points of interest. Until then, they are simply just points in the market that we have a vague idea that price could well turn around from those areas. So with that said, as you can see, this Asia range setup that I did indeed take, that was one stop loss. And then up at the highs, as I said, price tapped in, gave us that bearish engulfing on the 15-minute time frame. Order block selection giving us the opportunity to build the foundation for us then to take a short position down. So as you can see, 71 people on TradingView benefited from that, posted 8 hours ago. The likes, of course, do not replicate the amount of effort that I do put into the chart analysis, but as you can see, locked directly for Frgnt Mastery, of which they received a full breakdown on exactly how I'm going to take this position. Let's have a look at another one for good example, just to see that the edge is still most certainly playing out and in favor. We have, where was it? Still waiting for GCAD. AUD/USD, again, to perfection. A trade not taken as a result of this being NFP. But what is highlighted to me is my order block selection and points of interest are very much so on point. Again, if I go back to the analysis this morning, this of course has now been updated 31 minutes ago. However, again, 8 hours ago, key, have a plan in place. And that was AUD/USD potential longs from that area in terms of an Asia range fill. And what do we have here? The Asia range fill to absolute perfection. Again, this trade was not taken as a result of price coming in NFP. However, make no mistake that the order block selection needed to be correct. If this order block was up here, then I wouldn't be in the position to say that the trade would have been a half decent trade. It's all about your points of interest, your areas of which you're putting full trust into, allowing me to then have the confidence when I'm in a trade like so, regardless of the outcome, do I trust my entry criteria? As I've trusted this order block, as I trusted this order block, as I trusted the order block of which was created as a result of the bearish engulfing. It's very important with experience you start to trust your analysis more than any other before you look at Instagram or any other particular gurus that are online. It's very important that you hone in the skill of trusting your own analysis. Once you trust your own analysis, you'll be able then to execute with absolute confidence. You'll be able to be transparent in the way that you're happy to share your analysis. As you can see, 1,000 people plus are following, over 1,000 plus ideas, which I share absolutely for free for you to scrutinize, for you to pay attention, for you to learn something from. And that is simply as a result of me having the trust in my own analysis. Therefore, I don't mind sharing it, to be honest. I'm going to trade it anyway. You've no idea unless you're in Frgnt Mastery or any other of the Frgnt groups or communities how I will be trading these points of interest. Nevertheless, as you can see, they are being respected over and over again. So the secondary part for me personally is just ensure that my entry criteria is always on point, continue to plan ahead, forecast what type of entries are going to be taken, and trading becomes that much easier. So again, a 10-minute video, I shall leave it like that. But as I always end, thank you very much for your support across the channels, FrgntForex.com, Frgnt Mastery over Telegram and all the free communities, as well as platforms such as YouTube and Instagram. It does not go unnoticed. I do appreciate it. And good luck in your trading journey. Thank you very much. All the very best. And that's Charles.